Today, the news of Vanguard Life. My name is Damlola. Today, the news we read and give in-depth analysis on some of the stories making waves across Nigeria. This morning, we start with Vanguard on the paper review. Vanguard is leading with insecurity. Northern governors, OK State Police, suspend mining. One region will collapse if terrorists abduct nothing mother, 10 others in Kano. Panic at Abuja school as students mistake soldiers for kidnappers. A police foil planned a mass kidnap attack in Abuja, killed 3 bandits. Abducted Niger school children are doing fine, will return soon. That's coming from Ribado. Tinubu must enforce emergency declaration on security. That's coming from Expert. You can see that story on page 5. On page 8, Jonathan's wife, Ganduje Duke, Fayose, others lose Abuja land as Wike revokes 1,095 plots. We are no longer owners of property. That's coming from Fayose and Obaigbo. You can see that story on page 8. On page 15, Fubara counters Speaker Tamawule's criticisms on education. Board promotes 24,202 senior paramilitary officers. Page 8, that as the story. Okay. Agbekoya warriors move into Southwest Forest. You can see that in Vanguard newspaper. Top banner on page 5. Defense minister resigns. Cool. Nigeria protects Guinea-Bissau's opposition candidate. You can see that on page 8. And lastly, on the Vanguard newspaper, terrorism, United States, France, UK backing Nigeria with technical support. That's coming from Ribadu. Away from that, we'll move to The Guardian. The Guardian major headline says Northern leaders suspend mining, back state police to tackle insecurity. Page 6 as that story. We'll move to The Punch. Punch major story says abduction surge, Northern governors demand mining suspension, unveil 228 billion naira security fund. State police tops agenda at 19 Northern governors meeting. Federal government enlists the United Kingdom, France supports. And on page 3, fate divide widens. Student protest religious inequality at Gombe University. You can see that story on page 2. From there, we'll move to The Nation. The Nation major story says Defense Minister Badaru resigns. President accepts exit on health grounds. Replacement likely this week. You can see that on page 5. And that's all we have on the front pages of the dailies this morning. The stories. Welcome back. If you are just joining me, this is Today the News on Vanguard Live. My name is Damlola Ogunshaki, and joining me to analyze the stories on the front pages this morning is Mr. Dayo Akitobi. Is the publisher of Ilupechi today, Lekki today, and Ikeja GRA today. Good morning, Mr. Dayo.
Good morning, Damilola. Good morning to all our viewers.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Now, today we are focusing mainly on insecurity. Northern governors, yesterday, they warned that the region stood on the brink of losing its future to escalating insecurity and deepening poverty unless the leaders took urgent, decisive action. And they called for a 6-month suspension of mining and supported creation of state police, claiming insecurity and illegal mining are linked. So what do you think makes these governors believe that illegal mining significantly contributes to insecurity in the region?
Well, it's not just the governors, but generally the security professionals have believed that a lot of the insecurity in the country is coming from either land grabbing or an attempt to exploit the minerals that are in the ground, which still goes all the way back to grabbing land anyway, whether it's grabbing land because of territorial disputes or grabbing land to exploit the valuable resources under the ground. The bottom line is the belief is that land is at the center of a lot of the insecurity that we see in the north. Truth be told, people like Boko Haram have started out in terms of ideological warfare, and even kidnapping is anchored on an economic motive. But the general banditry you see and terrorism generally has a deeper basis, which experts have said is connected to the resources in the land. And you know that a lot of the foreigners, the Chinese, some other nationalities who have come to Nigeria have come and exploit our mineral resources And until recently, when this administration set up a ministry specifically to address the issues of that sector, we've not paid much attention to trying to capitalize on the resources that we have beneath our land beyond oil and gas. So some people have recognized that these valuable things are being overlooked, and it doesn't take much for them to be able to extract them and make money from them. So they've generally made deals with, and that's why you see a video of mining going on with a lot of locals doing the back-breaking work, and then some foreigners overseeing the operation and the ones benefiting from what's coming from there. So the northern governors believe that if mining is suspended for now, it will remove the incentive for a lot of the insecurity. And in terms of state police, well, even the southern governors just last week agreed to agitate or to advocate for state police at a more intense level, because it seems like federal police has been unable to stop this scourge. And the belief is that because all the instructions are coming from Abuja, that it's too cumbersome a process to be able to adequately police the localities with a federal structure. So the northern governors are just being in lockstep with the times, because the southern governors have reached the same conclusion that time is ripe for state police. And so they too are seeing that as a panacea to a lot of the insecurity issues that are happening in the north. Whether those two measures will completely eradicate the scourge or not is still open to debate. I think there still needs to be greater political will to prosecute, to interdict, prosecute, and penalize the perpetrators. For now, especially with things like kidnappings, we celebrate too much the recovery of the kidnapped victims, which is the first priority, is to get them back. But once we've got them back, we forget about the second part of the equation, which is the kidnappers, the people who caused that insecurity. What are we doing about them? In the celebration of being happy that we've recovered our girls or recovered kidnapped victims, we never hear anything further about the people that did the kidnapping or the insecurity in the first place. I mean, recovery of kidnapped victims does not occur in a vacuum. Either they were rescued by virtue of an attack, or ransom was paid. Some kind of way there was some engagement between the rescuers and the kidnappers. So far the focus seems to have been, once we've got our victims back, that's the end of the story. So there's no deterrence. So what I'm trying to say basically is that in addition to suspending mining and agitating for state police, there must also be an open, covert perception that this kind of behavior will not be tolerated and will be dealt with squarely to serve as a deterrence. For now, I think that deterrence factor is lacking. And even if you bring state police and you suspend mining, as long as people still believe that they can do things and get away with it, I think we may not totally see those two measures completely eradicating, although they may have some impact about reducing insecurity, the instances of insecurity. It may not eliminate them completely.
But do you think that state police will be more better than the current federal police structure in the north?
There's a lot to be said for state policing because, first of all, the command and control is localized. As a result, they can be more flexible in terms of their processes, in terms of instructions, in terms of communication, and also state police, they're local people, so they know the terrain, they know the people. So your next door neighbor could be your policeman. He speaks your language, he understands your culture, he knows the terrain, he knows the habits of the people. He can easily get information, intelligence. Informants will trust him more than they will somebody who is... Right now, if you look at it, the DPO in your state might be somebody who is from across the country who doesn't even understand the local language. Why would people trust him to go and give him information about where bandits are gathering when they don't even, they don't speak his language, they're not comfortable with him. But somebody you grew up with, who went to the same school as your older brother, who is friends with your cousin, and who played football in the local community pitch with your relative, and who attends the same house of worship with your family. That person is like your brother. So if you hear of anything happening, or you see anything in the community untoward, you won't feel afraid or hesitant to go and talk to him and tell him what is going on in the neighborhood. So state police does have a lot of advantages. There are some people who are a bit against it, that politicians could use it as a tool for repression, for oppression, for political gain. But the view is that we shouldn't, because of the potential pitfalls, deny ourselves of something that could be a major advantage. That the goal should be put it in place, then put in checks and balances to prevent it from being used for ulterior purposes. So I think there's more to be said in favor of state policing in a country like Nigeria, where command and control all the way from Abuja is complicated and it's never straightforward. I remember a couple of situations where some governors had attempted to do one or two things, and I remember the Lagos State governor once went to examine an estate somewhere that was, I think, scheduled for demolition or something, and the law enforcement officer in charge said, I've been giving orders from Abuja. I can't. And the guy said, the governor said, I'm the chief security officer of this state, and I'm instructing you to let me pass or something. And the guy said, I'm sorry, I have my instructions from Abuja. Call the commissioner of police or call the inspector general of police. He's the only one I can take the order from. So that's where you begin to see the imbalance between us calling the state governors chief security officers, yet they have no power to be able to direct the security personnel. Yet the governors are the one that understand what is happening in their localities. Abuja can't really know intimately what is going on in the backyard of a particular state, as well as the governor will know. So this idea of state police is actually now giving the reins of authority, the reins of power to the governor to truthfully be the chief security officer of the state. As of now, he's just the chief security officer as a figurehead. He's just in name only, not in practice. He has no authority to carry out any security whatsoever in his state, beyond maybe trying to raise funds for the federal police and empower them with vehicles, with communication gadgets, etc. That's all he can do for them. He can't do any more at this point. So state police could be a good thing.
Yeah, but how can they now prevent, these governors from abusing, this power and ensuring accountability across all the states?
Yes, this is the thing. This is the issue, and you look at it. That issue also arises at the federal level. How do you stop the executive, the federal executive, from who the police is under him? How do you stop him from abusing or using the police for repression? Well, first things first, I think even at the federal level, the head of the police should not be appointed by the governor, just like he should be appointed by the president. I think they should have a panel, that a multilateral panel that includes, people from government, maybe from all three arms of the government, somebody from the executive, somebody from legislature, somebody from the judiciary. Maybe they should have retired senior police officers, they should have clergymen, they should have traditional rulers, elder statespeople, maybe journalists. They should have a panel. And that panel is the one that should screen and perhaps nominate. And then maybe the legislature should now screen and confirm. But it should not be unilaterally the purview of the executive to nominate the head of the state police, because then the head of the state police will be at his beck and call. But if he has an independent commission that he answers to, like at the federal level, we have the Police Service Commission, but at the end of the day, they still answer to the executive anyway, because it's the executive who appoints the IG. So perhaps there should be a committee that the state police head is answerable to, such that they are not kowtowing to the state government. as such, and so that they can remain independent and above board.
All right. Northern governors also proposed a regional security, trust fund. What do you think about this?
Well, that's a good thing. I mean, we've seen it happen, especially Lagos has been very good at that since 2 or 3 administrations ago. And this security trust fund, what it does is raise money from corporate entities to support the work of the police. And because, there can never be enough money that the government can put towards security. As it is, I think even in the current budget, I think security garners the lion's share. But that money has to be divided through so many things, through all the different services, Army, Navy, Air Force, Police, Civil Defense, National Security Advisor, all different divisions. Then there's salaries, there's weapons, there's munitions, there's training. There's so much that the money has to do that. There's not much left over to fund operations. That's why you go to police stations and you see that they say they have no diesel in their generator, or they have no biro with which to write statements, or the police officers have to pay for their own uniforms themselves. There's no petrol in their vehicle for them to use to go and follow you to go and investigate a crime that has occurred. So definitely funds are an issue for law enforcement. And what you now see in certain innovative states is that they've recognized the fact that money is needed to fight crime, and not enough money is coming through the federal budget. And so states have taken it upon themselves to raise money from corporate entities that are headquartered in their individual states, like in Lagos. I remember, I think it was in 2007 or 2011 or thereabouts that the governor set up the Lagos State Security Trust Fund and invited all the corporate entities. And he's very lucky. Many of the multinationals and Fortune 500 companies in Nigeria are headquartered in Lagos. So he just made an appeal, a broad-based appeal to all of the major corporations in Lagos State on a basis of self-interest that, look, if we have a secure Lagos, your operations are also secure. Your factories are secure, your headquarters are secure, even the people you supply, your goods are also secure. So it's to your benefit to have a secure Lagos. And the corporate entities agreed, and they set up a pool of funds. Some donated billions, they donated hundreds of millions. They raised it for. They used it to equip the federal police. Remember, it's not the job of the state to fund the police. The federal police is the job of the federal government to fund the federal police. But the states realize if they're waiting for the federal government to fund the police at the state level, they will never get enough to meet their desires. So if you want a secure state, they have to assist the federal government by way of funding the state divisions of the federal police. And so Lagos State raised billions. And what did they do? They bought vehicles, they bought communication gadgets, they bought armored personnel carriers, they bought uniforms, they bought bullets, ammunition, they bought rifles. They paid for any and everything that the Lagos State Police Command could require for their operations. And guess what? Crime fell drastically from the moment that trust fund kicked into operations and started procurement, started providing the money for procurement for Lagos State Police Command. Bank robberies went to near zero. Home invasion robberies went to near zero. Carjackings, armed robberies, all those things fell immediately because the police were so well funded, they were visible. It was from that money that they started something called the RRS, which is a Rapid Response Squad. And those ones, the moment there's a distress call, it was from that money that they set up this 911 or I think 711, this emergency calling something, to where if you put out a distress call and you call the number, I think it's 122 or 117, there's a 3-digit number in Lagos State that you can call if you have a distress. And police will be on their way, ambulance will be on their way, fire service will be on their way, whatever the particular emergency you have is. And such an operation, I believe, was funded from part of those resources we are talking about. So police presence in Lagos escalated. It skyrocketed to where even criminals began to run out of the state, because everywhere you turn, you see an RRS vehicle. There are police patrols morning, afternoon, night, and they were well armed. So, this kind of having a regional trust fund that the northern governors are talking about will definitely come to their benefit, because the monies they raise will be used to bolster the operations of the security forces. The only thing I am a bit concerned about, maybe that's why they decide to do it regionally as opposed to state by state by state, is that how many conglomerates are in each state that can put up substantial money, because these things we are talking about are not cheap. Armored personnel carriers, ammunition, communication devices, vehicles, they are not cheap. So you need a whole lot of money. So maybe they recognize the fact that individually, as single states, they will not be able to raise enough. It's why they decided that let's do regional and let's all come together and let's now, as one block, raise enough money, not just from corporations, but even the governments too will put in money from their own coffers. They will ask individuals and well-to-do citizens to contribute as well. And that move should definitely help to arrest or reduce some of the insecurity in the north.
All right. I mean, the rising national insecurity, and just few days after President Tinubu declared the national security emergency, the defense minister resigned on health grounds. What do you think about his resignation? I mean, it's just been a few months that he was appointed as the Minister of Defense.
I think they're just being diplomatic by saying that he resigned on health grounds. I think he was asked to leave. The reason is this. He's a political appointee. He doesn't have any background in security at all. And the Minister of State is also a political appointee who has no background in fighting insecurity. If we're in a state of emergency, we need professionals to handle the operations or the oversight or the strategy sessions. Now, in peacetime, it's okay to put political cronies or those who helped you campaign. You have to fit them in different offices to reward them politically. Politics is all about interest. And the people who helped you campaign and get you into office must be rewarded. Otherwise, when you look behind you, you won't see anybody behind you and you can't, succeed on your own. So a lot of appointments are based on political payback. But some positions are very sensitive, especially like in this particular situation where we've declared an emergency on insecurity. Essentially, we're at war with insecurity. You cannot be at war and have non-professionals in such key positions as ministers of defense. It's not possible. And I'm glad the president recognized that. And he likely has thanked the resigned or the immediate past minister of defense and gave him a soft landing by saying, we allow you to resign, as opposed to we sack you. We allow you to resign. Bottom line is the man has been ineffective, and it's not his fault. He's been ineffective because he's not trained in that field. And this is not peacetime. So, look, at the end of the day, whoever is in charge of the ministry, he coordinates the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He's the one who all the heads of service, the CDS, Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Air Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, even the National Security Advisor, all of them come under that ministry. So the head of that ministry is a coordinator. Yes, he is not the one who is boots on the ground in the field directing the troops, but he's the overall head of all those people and coordinates all of their efforts and the strategy. So in wartime, you have to have somebody who is well versed in that field. So word is now that the presidency is now seeking a retired general from the army who is very experienced, especially with the particular type of insecurity we are facing at this point. So that will now give more momentum to this declaration of a state of emergency, because it's easy to declare a state of emergency. And along with that declaration, we've seen some moves. There was the issue of recruiting so many more people into the police, right? There's been other initiatives that have come out of that state of emergency. But when you do all those things, as long as the person who is sitting at the top of your security apparatus is somebody who is not well versed or experienced enough in that sector or in dealing with the problem at hand, then you are limited in the effectiveness of your state of emergency. So I'm glad that the president recognized that and did not sacrifice on the altar of political patronage, did not sacrifice the well-being and security of lives and property of Nigerians. So I'm glad he's taking that step, which can't have been an easy step, because at the end of the day, like I said, in politics, there are so many things to balance and to weigh, that for this person to have been nominated as the minister and being confirmed as the Minister of Defense, definitely he was a political asset to the president. He had some political benefits, because they don't just pluck people out of obscurity. For them to nominate you to a federal ministership is because either they owe you because of something you've done, or there's a benefit you are bringing to that office. And in this case, we all agree there was no benefit this man was bringing to the office, because he is not versed in security procedure and protocol. So it's a good thing, and it should give some legs to this state of emergency. And let's now look forward to who the president is going to nominate. The rumors that it's going to be the immediate past Chief of Defense Staff, Brigadier General Musa, who was highly regarded. And a lot of people were disappointed that he was retired and replaced, because they thought he was a right man for the job, and he was doing well as Chief of Defense Staff. So there's rumor that he might be the one. Of course, that rumor is fueled by the fact that he was in a meeting at Alpha Villa yesterday with the president, even before the announcement of the resignation of the immediate past minister. So if such a person comes and takes the reins of the ministry, it can't but help and improve our efforts to battle and fight this insecurity
problem. Do you think the change of leadership can help performance of the defense ministry, or do you think that this problem is bigger than who occupies the office?
Well, you see, look, the thing about it is that at the end of the day, ministerial appointments, ambassadorial appointments, all those kind of things, they are really nominal. When I say nominal, they're by and large, they are just ambassadors of that office. The reason is because the real work is done below the level of minister. The real work starts from permanent secretary and below. The civil service, the directors, the DGs, the permanent secretaries, the managers, that's where the real work happens. Whoever is at the top, the minister, is really just an ambassador for that ministry. He's a go-between to take the political party or the executive's view and take it to the people who will implement it. So the minister is the go-between and the public face of that ministry. But he's not the one who is doing the actual work. But he's the one who has to motivate the troops. He's the one who has to chair the strategy sessions. He's the one who has to spell out the vision. So it is still a key position. And if you don't have the right person there, it can lead to inertia. And not just inertia, it can even lead to low morale if there's no sense of direction. And it is the person at the top that will bring that sense of direction as enunciated by the executive. And be the one, he won't be the one to implement it, but he will be the one to communicate it to those who will implement it. So in this particular case, if you have a well-versed security professional at the top, he will be able to communicate more effectively and head strategy sessions and give the kind of guidance to those who are going to actually implement the vision. And then when he is sitting with the president to update the president or to take instructions from the president, he can bring insights, valuable insight that will help the president shape his own agenda or his own instructions as to how to handle this matter. So when you say it's a problem bigger than any individual, it can be. But at the end of the day, it still rests on the shoulders of individuals to address it. It's not going to be addressed by committee. It's going to be addressed from one individual to the next individual to the next individual to the next individual. So maybe bigger than one individual to solve. But There's no problem that's ever solved by an individual. At the end of the day, it's collaboration of a chain of command that solves issues. So I think I used to be one who would say, oh, when we change the chief of defense staff, when we change chief of army, we change that. It's just window dressing because they're just removing one person to put the next person who trained in the same way and knows the same things and has the same ideological bent towards this insecurity problem, so that it doesn't bring about real change just to change the heads of the security agencies. That it has to be done in conjunction with other measures. So this idea of is the minister changing the minister, it's a step in the right direction, I tell you that. It may not be the be-all and end-all of solving the problem, but when you take it in consonance with all of the other moves that are being made, including procurement of weaponry, new minister of defense, new recruitment of police, various steps. When you put them all in lockstep, they will definitely improve the fight against insecurity.
All right, our time is fast spent, but let's just quickly talk on this one. Mr. Wike and the FCT recently revoked 1,095 land titles, including plots held by high-profile politicians and former public office holders. This has affected the likes of former President